Welcome to Insights into Success, where with your host Paul Dodds, we hope to educate, inspire and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. Well, welcome back to Insights into Success, where we're doing this special segment called Read to Succeed with our recent guest, Howard Steinberg. Howard, welcome back. I'll hand it over to you. So if you'd like to share with us books that you've read, what they are, what was inspirational about them. And I also want to know a little bit about your reading style. Take it away.
Well, my reading style is slow, unfortunately. You know, ADD, and so I often listen to books, but certain ones have captivated me in print too. And you know, as I think back, I'm more of a nonfiction reader. I like memoirs and biographies and nonfiction. But when I was in my business life, I love Michael Lewis. I think he's the most brilliant storyteller we have today. And Moneyball was an amazing book, and it was all about the Oakland A's in Major League Baseball, and how they took a alternative approach to their very small market, small budget team. And Billy Beane, the general manager of the team, decided to throw out all the orthodoxy of the traditional baseball and started using analytics to determine real value of players. And he built championship teams on a low budget by challenging the conventional wisdom. And it was just such a story well told and so interesting that I would give it to all my employees too, because really challenging, orthodoxy and traditional ways of approaching things that we could do as a smaller team with smaller budgets. And then as I, grew into my own kind of spiritual awakening, and there were a couple of books that were really valuable. And I can't get enough of Ram Dass, who's this an amazing spiritual teacher. He's no longer with us, but a very regular human that had all the trappings of success, but didn't feel comfortable in the world, and started questioning and pursuing something deeper, and going to met his guru in India, and he became a messenger in the West for a more present spiritual way of existing in life. And that's why his seminal book, his bestseller, I think it was at one point it was outsold the Bible globally, Be Here Now, which he hand wrote. And just, these simple philosophies about being present to the moment. And I'm struggling to come up with, perfect example from the book, but he did it with such humor and transparency. He talked about how he's got every issue he always had, but he's made friends with those parts, the neurotic, the obsessive, and that, instead of fighting with him, I invite them for tea. And that always stayed with me. And I learned so much from him. And then, as we discussed, something that was really transformative for me was the discovery of psychedelic medicine, plant medicine, and my own change, my own evolution. And Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, was so effective at telling the story of how psychedelics can be really valuable tool for people in society that want to evolve, that want to shift, or as he says, shake the snow globe. And so I learned a lot through that, through his book as well. So that's just 3 examples, yeah.
And so just touching on what you said before about your method of reading you prefer, do you then listen to a lot of audio books? What's its typical style of reading?
Yeah, haven't much lately, but it's something you could do. and this is, you know, goes back to our interview, our discussion, where because of like ADD, it's so hard for me to sit in the moment and just with a book open. So, you know, audio allows me to do it while doing something else. Not ideal, and that's still, you know, I still have work to do. But whether I'm riding a bike or working out or driving in a car, and our whole podcast society, as you well know, has given us this audio content that can keep us busy for sure.
Yeah. And do you find retention being a bit of a challenge with audio because you are doing other things at the same time?
Well, not so much the retention, but the like folding the page per se, or marking it to come back to. It's not so easy. I mean, there's ways you could do it in an audiobook, but then you don't. You know, it's not. You don't go back and look at the dog-eared page as you would in print. But yeah.
And in terms of types of books you read, predominantly, is it nonfiction?
Yeah, again, and I think also attributable to that kind of, you know, thinky brain, that ADD brain, because when I'm reading fiction, I get stuck in, oh, someone's making this up. It didn't really happen, you know. I can't get lost in a narrative as easily. So nonfiction, particularly, you know, interesting memoirs of people like, you know, Michael Singer wrote this great book that I loved. First one was, you know, Untethered Soul, and the second was The Surrender Experiment. And he was a very successful businessman, but he approached life spiritually and just stayed open to it. And it's just an amazing story of how things would appear. Success just showed up by letting go, by surrendering. And so it's almost a paradoxical a notion for approaching business.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Howard. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me today, and it's been very enlightening. It certainly really just underscores, I think, the different challenges we can face in life and ways in which we can then overcome them for our betterment. But you've got a great positive attitude, and it's great to see that you're really turned it around and I think added to your life by recognizing, you know, the implications of your upbringing and looking to grow from, you know, that reflection process.
Great. Thank you, Paul. I enjoyed it.